All right, all right, all right. All right, all right, all right. Grand Wizard of the Esoteric Order of Dagon, your friend and well-wisher, Frank Monday. Welcome back, everyone. Hit the likes and subscribe. Keep them barking. Head over to buymeacoffee.com and check it out. Put a little something in the tip jar. I appreciate y'all good-looking, sexy people out in Happy Land tonight. So it says that I'm simul-flowing from flow state panel chat, and I don't see any effective way to turn that off. So that's going to suck down the rest of my my free hours. I hadn't thought about that when I tuned in, but I was having fun. It just it was a bit of sensory overload, to be honest. You got to have respect for people that can live stream and simulcast with 10 different people chatting at the same time. That was really tough, man. That took a toll on my spiritual energies somehow. And I won't comment any further on any particulars. Hey, welcome back, Nunu. Good to see you again, man. I hope you're doing well. Sometimes it's hard to listen to a lot of bark, yappity, yap. Wow, I was like, whoa, it's just overloading. So I can't imagine being able to take all that 12 hours a day, man. And for what? Like less than minimum wage? I don't know. Well, I think the top streamers are making, what do they say? 1% of the top streamers are making 99% of the money being generated. So that means that 99% of the streamers are making less than 1% of the money being generated. So it's all being siphoned straight to the top. Doesn't seem like it's really that worth it. But they seem to do all right. You know, they're making, like I said, they're probably making a minimum wage. And I guess it's for retired folks that are just chilling at home and ain't got a lot else to do. It seems nerve-wracking, though. Yeah. Hold on a second. Yeah, so as soon as I tune in, then there's just in and out, constant fucking craziness. It just never ends. Yeah, but there isn't a lot you can do with that. You said you did some good work actually, but they can burn energy. Yeah, I can. It burns a lot of energy. Okay, yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that, Nunu. Yeah, I could feel his angst and anxiety, right? Like when I started the show earlier and Queen Stephanie came on, like that dude, whatever that dude is just filled with so much toxic negative energy. Is like, how do you even handle that? I just had to back off for a moment and just let him talk, right? And coming back in, trying to address and deal with that, when my main intention for being here, again, is fellowship, to socialize, have philosophical conversations, try to recount some interesting events and scenarios that people have been involved in. Yeah. And have conversations that elevate the spirit and raise you to a higher level. But a lot of these folks on the panel chat, or just, I don't know, even sometimes in everyday life, like the focus tends to be so degenerate. For example, I see so many people stepping forward and attempting to vilify like Mr. T and what he's up to. And it's like, well, really? You're going to cast shade on him? It's like, what have you done lately? Right? And I know they're hurting. I know something's wrong, because if you're in a place of strength and personal power, then that's not what you're focused on. You're focused on those things in life that are good and great. And like I thought, going into it and coming forward and talking about it, people would be more interested on the finer points of what was said. Comes from the leftist world. Imagine bombarded in a war zone, maybe shell shocked. Yeah, that's kind of, I'm feeling a little bit of PTSD right now from the panel chat that I was just on. Like, if you attempt to use decorum and etiquette, then you're always overtaken by the extremely vocal minority that doesn't really have anything of value to say. And so all you can do is just like sit back and be bombarded with an endless stream of absolute nonsense. Zombieland, yeah. So going into the chittering, chortling, chuckling masses of Zombieland, you come back a little bit vexed. You wonder, like, wow, what went wrong in these people's lives to put them into such a state of discombobulation? Like, something really, really bad must have happened. And it's not just that, like, they're generating an entire society, an echo chamber of this kind of inanity and stupidity, and surround themselves with it, and somehow they enjoy it. Somehow it elevates them. I guess they feel like better to be king in hell than to be a beginner and learn something new, a neophyte in heaven of where he lives. Yeah. And I've had free gift from God, or King of Hell, the guy, that other guy, reach out to me a few times, and he seems to be okay for the most part. But yeah, some sort of darkness reeled him in. And but yeah, Queen Stephanie, leader of Team Evil, that dude's just irredeemable. There's no hope for him. He's completely lost in his own madness and his own echo chamber. That will be the last time that I entertain him, though. And if Facebook and Google verification have anything to say about it, I guess his real name is Michael Smith. Sad. And he's so desperate to try to learn what my name is. And if he was really willing to dig any deeper, it's not hard to see the truth, right? And then trying to threaten me with, like, oh yeah, the Chinese have found out who you are. It's like, bro, they've known who I am since the fucking day I arrived. My first job was at CCTV. My second job was at BTV. I've worked in academies, in and out of the top academies here since I've been here. Nobody's wondering who I am. Everybody knows who I am. So that's just kind of a weird thing. Very weird. So I had put forward some of the ideas that I thought were interesting that I had come across in listening to the inauguration speech by President Donald Trump. Yeah, we can't judge them. Don't judge those people, because I kind of understand what they're going through. I got you. I don't. I mean, I do. Like, I've seen other people in my family fall prey to drug abuse and gang activity and criminal behavior. Like I said, you guys know that even my own sister and her daughter went in and took advantage of my mother when she got sick, and robbed my house and then tried to steal everything. Not only had they sold off everything of value that was in my home and made my mom's condition really, really bad, like, they contributed to her death ultimately, because they made her environment just a sewage of drug traffic, and they turned it into like a trap house and a crack house. And I don't know if my sister prostitutes herself, but she was definitely letting her daughter prostitute herself for drugs. In my home, the home that I bought and let my mom into. I didn't let anybody else into it. But they elbowed their way in there saying, oh yeah, we're here to take care of mama because she's getting old now. But that's not what they were doing. They were there to unload all of the treasure that I had stored there, and to let all of their demonic friends in to walk all over my mom and, basically starve my mother to death and make her psyche and her spirit leave the world early, which, there wasn't anything I could do about it, because those were the choices she made. She opened her door to them, my door, and I opened my door to her. But it's just a really sad thing that it's not only that people have suffered hardship, and maybe the darkness that you encountered was not of your own creation, but to create that darkness and then spread that darkness among others and in society is just an evil that cannot be tolerated anymore. The problem is out there, as we know. Yeah, and those of us who have, picked ourselves up by our bootstraps and are self-made individuals and continue to engage in society in a productive and healthy way, we got to start fighting back against that. We can't just let, roaming gangs of miscreants roll in and murder innocent people and rob stores and spread drugs and their filth ideas, right? We have to fight back. We have to say, no, enough's enough. And if the police force won't do it, we have to do it ourselves. And if sometimes it takes, self-sacrifice, I'm not recommending martyrdom in any way, but yeah, you have to participate in it. You have to participate in it as an advocate against that type of thing somehow. And I think part of it is not opening your door to those people, number one, not letting them into your life. And if it's someone that is close to you, then you have to set ultimatums and be like, well, you've got to get rid of the criminal friends and you've got to get rid of the drug habit, at least keep it under really, really strict control. And you have to maintain civility in your discourse while you're here. And you have to maintain cleanliness in your environment. You got to keep your room clean. You got to participate in regular family meals, and you can't keep yourself loaded all the time. And this, you can't stay out all night partying with the criminals. Otherwise, you're just not going to have a place to stay. You can't stay here. And sometimes it is, sometimes it is a matter of my way or the highway. And if enough of us take that high road, then if they want life-sustaining support from people who are generating, enough income to do that, then they have to be willing to toe the line to a certain extent. And it's not like you're taking away their freedoms. You're taking away the evils that have infiltrated their lives and are killing them. And so I think that's an important thing somehow. And but so many people gravitate towards it, right? Like it seems to be the most attractive thing to them. I don't have the energy to participate in it, though, to be honest with you. Working a full-time job. I'm on vacation now, though, so I thought it would be a little bit chill. Exercism, right? Exercising our boundaries. Yeah, that's right. Setting up healthy boundaries. And letting everyone who knows, everyone who comes to the gate, this is what's expected of you. If you can do that, then you're welcome. If not, there's the fucking road. You found this gate. You were on the road already anyway, right? So just let it keep on taking you in the direction in which you feel you need to go. So the first of the list of things in order was the fact that Mr. T, I believe President Trump said that he gave a full pardon to the majority of the J6ers. And so my question was going to be for the audience out there, what did you think of that? Did you think that was a good move, a bad move? Good, bad, who can say, right? But that's right, we're the gatekeeper of our own domain. I think it's probably, for the most part, a good thing. Like, those people went there just to have their voices heard, and that's the duty of Congress and government, is to listen to the people. And now some of it turned into mob behavior, but that's mostly been exposed. Those are agents provocateurs among the female body investigators, right? We know who those guys are. And so they were up there stirring the pot and agitating the people to do things against just expressing their opinion, right? So that kind of all went bad. And yeah, I think that it's a good idea to give a full pardon to all of those folks, right? We see that the outgoing administration just went ahead and gave a blanket pardon to everyone who was involved in criminal activity during their administration. And I think that's like the opposite end of the spectrum. That's obviously evil, right? If these people didn't have anything to hide, as they love to say and claim, right, then they wouldn't have the need for that type of thing. And so we see how opposite ends of the spectrums handle these things. I think that justice was done in alleviating these people of the great burden that the state had placed on them, that they weren't allowed to, number one, freedom to assemble, and number two, freedom to express their opinion. Because from what I understood, for the most part, there weren't any regular people doing any mischief. It was all of the agent provocateurs, right? Agent provocateurs that were up to bad behavior. So Nunu says you watched him get entrapped live on live TV, led and coaxed some other guy, a bunch of goons dressed up as. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what went down. We all saw it. It's been, it's been brought to light, and it's a very clear and easy to see thing. And then they lie about everything constantly in retrospect, like after the fact, just constant lying and lying and lying about like what he said and what the people did and all of that. And they try to obfuscate it so much, and they do it with such vigor and intensity that it's hard to see through the bullshit sometimes. But those are the facts, and the facts stand as they are. And again, that's part of the reason why they won't allow the vast majority of the videotape to be brought forward, and that they pixelize the agents' faces who could easily be identified as working for certain groups. And so they don't let that happen. So that was point number one. And yeah, give me your feedback. Let me know what you think about that. And it looks like we've got a couple of other people in the ideas room, so I will drop the link if anybody's interested in chit-chatting about some of these ideas. There's the StreamYard link in the chat box. Feel free to jump on and banter the ideas back and forth with me. The next big one that I didn't hear much about, but I'm interested in learning more about, so maybe you guys know more about it, and I'm looking to investigate it on some level in the near future, was the idea of this Stargate. So they're coming up with this Project Stargate, this catch-all term for where no man has gone before, right? So it's, from what I understand, it's going to be a new project into LLMs. Is that what they're called? Large language models. And then AGI, like artificially generated intelligence, so advanced algorithms. And so somehow Operation Stargate is in the idea, the conceptual idea of going to Mars. Now, I honestly don't think that there's going to be a genuine spaceship travel to Mars in the next 4 years. Yeah, so I don't know if that's a real thing. It seems more like a sci-fi fantasy, but it's what they're promoting as a way to direct more funding into certain projects. So maybe there will be more advanced virtual reality AI programs that people can interact with, and they'll have this experience of going where no man or no one has gone before, right? So maybe that has something to do with Stargate. And the other thing I was thinking, since the Gateway Project, or Project Gateway, is that what it was called? Was it called Project Stargate? No. It was called something else. The old CIA program that investigated into remote viewing. Maybe it was Project Stargate. Are they calling their new program that at the inauguration, was that also named Stargate? I think there's a lot of fantasy. Yeah, there is. There's a lot of fantasy involved in all of this. The Gateway Project. That's what it was called. So I think that this new Stargate program that the Trump administration is talking about working towards, and they got some investment from a Japanese firm. I forget exactly which one it was, but they had the Japanese guy, little short guy, jumped up on the podium, and he had offered $100 billion. Trump said, double down, give me $200 billion. And so now he's committed to investing $500 billion over the next 4 years in these advanced AI systems. And they're calling it the golden age of the new golden age of American exceptionalism. And so we got to examine to some extent what that means, right? And I believe that it's going to be in reference to what originally was called noetic science and psionics. So I'll type it in the chat so you guys don't have to wonder about the spelling. Give me just a second. So yeah, noetic science. Science. How do you spell that? Science. Yeah, that's right. And that bringing about something called psionics. And what's another one? Oh, okay. Yeah. So, and an honorable mention to Radio Mysterioso, because I was listening to and exploring these ideas about 20 years ago. There was a podcast program called Radio Mysterioso. I believe that's what it was called. And the host of that, I forget his name, but really, really good podcast. Far superior to this Monkey Man podcast that everybody listens to today. Kind of like the resonance idea. Yeah. So they had mentioned this field of noetic science that was started by another guy. And then there's the Monroe Institute as well, right? So these ideas are not new ideas. They come out of that Promethean era of the 1960s and 70s when there was a lot of mind expansion science going on, or they were doing LSD in Harvard. So if you think of the TV show Fringe, right, where you have the PhD Harvard professor doing, with a laboratory in the basement of Harvard, doing experimentation with deprivation tanks and LSD and the expansion of mind sciences. So this kind of gives you some idea about what this noetic science is, right? Yeah, not to worry, Nunu. I can read through the typos, man. They don't bother me. And so to bring it back around to a person who practices noetic sciences would be considered a psionist, a psionic agent, like a scion. And so psi is the telepathic power, the ESP level of the mind. And then the onyx part of that was from electronics. So it's being able to use the power of mind and thought and consciousness to influence electronic devices or even infernal engines, right? Like we use our mind to an extent to interact with our dark mirror, our laptop or our phone or whatever you may have, right? But we also have to touch the screen and so on and so forth. But the noetic level would be that you could control the cursor just with your mind, not because you use a Neuralink connection, but because the transmitting medium would be sensitive to thought. So I could look into the computer and then I could just get the cursor to go where I want via the volition of my will, rather than using my finger to move it around or touch it or anything of that nature. But then this would be true, the same would hold true for some of the advanced propulsion vehicles that we see in our environment now, those manifesting in the sky in flying saucer shape or disc shape or sphere shape or egg shape, that you can get control of those with the mind, and then you'll, via remote viewing, you'll be able, like virtual reality wise, to be in that ship and then to pilot it. So it has to do with the astral temple, it has to do with mental magic, it has to do with all of these things. Yeah, the third eye, way beyond any computer. So that would be my next query. Having delineated a little bit, I would ask, what do you guys know about it? Do you have any experience with it? Have you done some of the practices that bring about the ability to do this? And if so, where were your successes? Where were your failures? And so on and so forth. So me personally, I've done a lot of work along these lines, and it goes right in with like Chinese mysticism and internal alchemy and meditation as a path working, right? So when we combine the ideas of using the tree of life Then you use the schematic, the mind map of the tree of life from Keter to Hesed, Bina, right, down through Da'ath, into Hesed, Hokmah, Hokmah to Bina, Bina down through Da'ath, and into Hesed, then over to Geburah, down through Tifereth, into Netzach, and then over into Hod, finally descending through Yesod and into Malkuth, right? If you know this basic procedure of the lightning strike, then you realize that this type of mind science isn't something new, that a reaching back, as it were, to the moment of creation and through the creation process, that from your seat on terra firma here in Malkuth, you do deep inhale and raise the spirit up from the base of the spine up into the celestial palace, and that this is a real working model of inner yogic Western yoga, right? That's what Poke Runyon calls it. And so have you done this? Have you explored the inner realms, right? I sometimes correlate them between Dreamland and the astral realm, and then the Timeless Homeland and beyond the veil. But all of these things are very distinct and very unique, right? Going beyond the veil and truly returning to the Timeless Homeland is a grand adventure, right? Up and above, beyond the celestial dome. Whereas utilizing your body of light to enter the astral realm and do magical work in the astral temple, or exploring the astral realm, that again too is different from work in Dreamland, though they do have crossover. So we're dealing with many dichotomous pieces of a whole, and as a unified whole, they're all really one thing, right? But when we examine them through the scientific lens of the human mind, through the intellectual mind, the skeptical mind, right, the critical factor, as it were, then they appear as very unique and distinct things to us. And so we have to learn them through or remember them rather than learning, through a gradual process, a graduated process, right? Right. So being a physical creature, but then having a spiritual center, means that you will have access to some of these higher level gifts of the spirit. Many people don't. Like, I realized in talking to the young man earlier that was in the chat, that maybe he's done some things and he's seen some things through Dreamland, or maybe some things through mystic medicine, but he really hasn't done the hard work that it requires to have the top, the higher level breakthroughs that make these things reality, and they make them able to function in your life, right, as a center. And so that requires some work. And when they say in the old mystic texts that when you talk to day flies about the winter, they don't know what you're referencing, because they're only they're the mayflies or the day flies or whatever. They're only alive for the summer, and they've never experienced winter. They sleep during winter in a deep catatonic sleep within the chrysalis. So they won't understand it. Yeah, very few people know. That's right. So that was the idea of Stargate, and I'd like to know what some of your guys' thoughts are. Again, if you'd like to chime in and banter about it a little bit, do so. If not, I am paying attention to the ideas room, and it's the 30-minute mark, so I'm gonna blurb the channel a little bit. I am the Grand Wizard of the Esoteric Order of Dagon, self-appointed your friend and well-wisher, Frank Monday. I do hope that you can take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe. If it was your first time, don't let it be your last time. In addition to that, please check me out at www.buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday. Now, the next big idea that was on the table at the time of me listening to the inaugural speech by President Donald Trump, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. of A., right, United States of America, that represents a beacon of freedom with the old Stars and Stripes, Old Glory, right? Originating in 1776 when Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, George Washington, and all of the other greats of the American Revolution were hanging out in the Green Dragon Tavern in Boston, Massachusetts, and dreamed up these ideas of a republic based on Socrates and his great republic, that there could be a new a renaissance, a rebirth of an old system that seemed to do well by people. That was founded in some deep-seated principles of governing through the will of the people, for the people, and by the people. Yeah. And so he said there's going to be a return to natural law. He said in the United States, we only recognize two genders, man and woman, right? Male and female. Those are the only genders that we recognize now. So this was a great relief off of my heart, because I had seen my children growing up in a new world order, right? The new normal of an LGBTQ rainbow flag that sought to take away their pristine innocence and replace it with a degenerate system of sexuality that's only interested in sexual indulgence and sexual expression and wasteful behavior, overexerting oneself with drugs and alcohol and decadence, and basically getting out and rooting in the sewers with same sex, other sex, pan sex, right? Trans sex, just anything under the fucking sun. And it's an orgiastic revelry in decadence and degeneracy that can only bring about a Sodom and Gomorrah like end to humanity, right? What is its ultimate goal? Just pleasure. Its goal isn't love, though they claim that they do it out of love, but that's not love. They don't understand love. They don't understand the love of mom and dad and a husband and wife and boyfriend and girlfriend. They only understand a polyamorous love of worshiping at the feet of the Baphomet as Cthulhu's tendrils wrap around and poke every fucking orifice on their body, with their minds addled on ecstasy and flakka as they flop about in a state of just absolute chaos. And so I'm glad that he's finally led the charge and lifted the banner and said, enough of that, man. That's enough. We're sick to the stomach with Drag Queen Story Hour. We're sick to the stomach with lesbian and gay sex and saying that this is a marriage, because it's not a marriage. A marriage is the birthing forth and bringing forth of dual energies of man and woman to have children and to raise those families with a moral compass centered on God as the apex, right? And it doesn't have to be your God or my God or any God, but it's got to be the grand architect. It's got to be the God force. It can't be this other thing, right? It can't be the worshiping of devils. That's not the way forward. That's only a way into destruction, self-destruction, and destruction of the norms in society, and the absolute destruction of the Tower of Babel, right? Which is what they're inviting. They're inviting this ultimate grand ending that they're so eager to usher in, right? They want this World War III. They want, the North Korean rocket man to be firing his cannon, standing up on a body of dead, mutilated people as he fucking, jerks one off into the aethers. And that isn't going to happen. We've anointed the Prince of Peace. Donald Trump came forward and he said, I want my legacy to be one of a peacemaker. Now he's not assuming the title of Christ. That's not what he's doing. People are totally misrepresenting him, and then they're throwing shade all the while these people who cast their aspersions and accusations at our beloved brother, frater, DJ Trump, right? They've brought nothing of value to offer. Yeah, they're at war with God. That's right. They are directly at war with God and his angels. And me being a magician and always invoking the great, the grand Lord of the universe, the Almighty, the vast and the mighty one, right? And invoking the angelic forces to protect me when I engage in operations of these kind, I can make no choice but to stand directly against them. You know, when I got into the Boy Scouts when my kids were young, I initiated myself back into the Boy Scouts in a position of leadership, and I took that very seriously. You know, each time we had a Boy Scout meeting, you make everything above board and of service to the young people there, right? You there as parents, we receive no pay, and we put on the uniform to let the kids know that putting on a uniform looks good. And it's not just the uniform that gives you a modicum of authority, but it's in imbuing that uniform, you're changing from who you were before you put it on. And so you step out of the role of exclusive father to one child when you step into a role of leadership in the Boy Scouts, and you take on a role of leadership for an entire tribe, clan. They're called the din, right? The din of young scouts, of young scouting troops. And what are they scouting for? They're looking for the path, right? The path to what? The path home, the path to reunion with the timeless homeland and the greater cosmic force, right? Back into the heavenly kingdom. And as we trudge our way through this weary, wayward land of wastrels and zombies, right? There has to be a path forward, and there has to be those pioneers who pick up the banner and charge forward and lead the way. Otherwise, we're all just going to get lost in the darkness. And so that's what Trump's doing. He's taken on the mantle of a din leader, a great din, the din of the United States, right? DEN, right? Of the great din of the US of A. And he's taken on the mantle of commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and he wants peace, and he wants to promote a booming economy, and he wants a new golden age for the American people, because it is the greatest country in the world, and that's because it's based on the foundation that, you know, whether you like it or not, that the Freemason brothers laid for the people, right? The Freemasonic Lodge brothers got together, you know, they were in the Green Dragon, that old tavern in Boston, and they dreamed up these ideas of greatness for the future and freedom for the people based on their own hard work and mutual respect and mutual understanding. You know, if you want to be a Muslim or an Islamist or whatever, you have the right to do that. And your right to do that extends as far as you doing that might interfere with me to have my right to be a Christian or a Buddhist or a Taoist or an atheist or whatever. That the ideas themselves should have intrinsic value, and that not any given class or group of people should be able to lord over the other groups of people. And so they had settled those affairs. They had laid them to rest. They said no longer will race, class, or religion be a point of contention among us. Everyone has equal rights as far as that's concerned. And so we were supposed to let those things fall to the wayside as we brought the big ideas forward on how to lead the country towards greatness, how to lead the people towards greater prosperity and longevity and health and wealth and happiness, all of those things. And, you know, the news media these days, they engage in the exact opposite. They don't engage in these forms of idealism, right? And in spreading these ideas of peace and prosperity. Rather than that, they get everybody fighting at each other's throats, and it's racist and it's sexist and it's this, that, or the other thing. And no, man, they totally fucking missed the message. Yeah. So here is the Scout Creed. I swear upon my honor to do my diligence to God and my country and my family, and I vow to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. I mean, what great words, right? I believe there are 12. Are there 12 or 10? Okay. There are 10 of them, right? So 10 solid attributes as a foundation. Yeah. On my honor to obey God's law, to obey natural law, not to pervert it, right? To say that there's more than just man and woman is a perversion of the truth. We know that it's not true. Yeah, you can feel like whatever you want to feel like. That's fine and dandy, but that's not the mainstream. There is an occasional hermaphrodite, and if you're a genuine hermaphrodite, more power to you. You know, you embody both Hermes and Aphrodite. I believe that Lady Gaga claimed that she was a hermaphrodite, and that may or may not be true. That's none of my business. That has nothing to do with the clear distinction of boy and girl that we raise in human society in order to stabilize the prime material plane, our nations, our states, our communities, and our families, right? So trustworthy. How do we achieve trustworthiness? What do we do to bring this about? How do we engage in it, right? How do we make it a real thing? I believe there should have been 12, right? Obedient. Okay, obedient was the other one. You're right, there are 12. And nothing against Lady Gaga. Yeah. So how do we be obedient, right? How do we be obedient unto God? We obey his law, right? And I'm not talking about the 10 commandments, though those are very, very important, but we obey natural law as laid out by the celestial realm, right? We see there's a sun and a moon, a man and a woman, and they're clearly distinct. They never waver in their diligence to their job for mankind and for the entire earth and the entire cosmos, as it were, right? So like as a father, I jump up every day. I do those things which I must do to make my family stronger. I go to work if I have to, right? I prepare food in the family if I have to. I do. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. And uniqueness it should be special and it should be honored. But again, it's not brought forth as the normal moro of society. It's queer and it's distinctly queer, and that's fine, right? To be the occasional queer, that makes you the 13th factor, right? But we have to service the greater portion of humanity first, and we have to service something even greater than that, which is God's word, which is the basic equation of Ani Yahava, or right, the Yod He Vah He, Jehovah, and his beloved son Yeshua. So these are deeply rooted hermetic and Taoist alchemical principles. And if I may, just really quick, I'll read you. I just learned in Hebrew the first line of the Torah or the Bible. Berashit bara Elohim at hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Ve'et haaretz. And so, the Word was with God, and the Elohim Hashamayim Va'at Haaretz. So that's big magic right there. The Elohim brought forth the manifest realm, and I did a wonderful mosaic of what it means to me and my own personal magical path. But, basically it's abracadabra, right? I create through a vibratorial formula. So we know that these basic hermetic principles always hold true, right? That the mind, the all mind is the origin of all things, and that we get the correspondence and the vibration coming out of that. So that's why we vibrate the holy and sacred, unspeakable name of the Tetragrammaton. Let's get on to the next one. No worries, man. Nunu had mentioned that he's got some typos going on out there in Happy Land. No worries. Absolutely. I can read through the typos as I mentioned a moment ago. Abracadabra alakazooey. Alakazoo. That's a good one, man. I love that. So making yourself trustworthy. Where you're trustworthy, you don't steal from other people, you don't lie about them, you don't cheat them. You do all of those things that we know point to positive north. We know we have a moral compass, and our moral compass points to true north, right? You're loyal. You're loyal to your friends. You don't betray them, right? You're helpful. You try to be an added value individual. You always step forward with your best foot forward and try to pick up the slack wherever you see it happening. And you don't do it because you're looking for a payout. You're doing it because you know it's the right thing to do. You're friendly. You come forward with a friendly attitude, right? And a spirit of cheerfulness among your compatriots. And in the Chinese system, we say Tian Xia Yi Jia, that everyone under heaven is one family. And so everyone's your compatriot to some extent, you know, unless they themselves make themselves your enemy. You're courteous and kind to those around you, courteous, and especially to the elderly, right? Like the young man who was in earlier, and he talked about an elderly woman coming in and wanting a glass of wine. I let him talk and I didn't say anything, but I thought, oh man, you're going about it all wrong. Like, if this older gal, who are you to tell her anything? You know, just 70, 80-year-old woman comes in and wants to have a glass of wine with her lunch. That's fine, man. That's more power to her, right? Not only would I get her Sauvignon Blanc, I would do it with a smile, and I would do it with pleasure and courtesy and kindness, because who knows how she's feeling. She might have woken up with pain on every inch of her body, and she's at the end of her life, and maybe a nice cool glass of Sauvignon Blanc is going to ease her soul for just a few moments before she transitions into the next stage of life. You know, you never fucking know. And it's not our business to judge, especially those who are older than us. We have to pay them due respect, and do it in a cheerful way. Being thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent, all of these things, really, really great virtues to adhere to. I got to check the chat here. It says that I've got... oh, yeah, they're absolutely good to review. Like I said, I had gone forward as a scout leader in when my kids were small, and I did it for about 6 years, right around 6 years. I was going to do a 7th year, but our den leader was moving on. He was an embassy guy, U.S. Embassy, and so he was getting relocated somewhere else, and he wanted to pass the den leadership on to me. But at the time, I was working too much. Like, I had too many office hours at the academy, and I could have sequestered enough time to do it, but I didn't feel like I would have been the right fit, because there were others in the community too that maybe not as expressly appropriate for it, but they had more free time than I did. And maybe I should have just done that anyway, and then delegated most of the responsibility to people who had either an equal or an excessive amount of free time. But I didn't do it. I wasn't ready to take up the mantle. And so as a result, I kind of retired from my scouting endeavors as well. And it's kind of a big thing, you know. And at the same time, you serve in a what is the word? Like an assistant role, an administrative assistant role during the time of great leadership. That doesn't mean that you're necessarily appropriate for taking up the role of leadership yourself. You saw how it was done, right? And you potentially could do it, but at the same time, you need to allow the rotation of leaders, right? So sometimes somebody does a really great job, and sometimes people do a piss poor job. And if you absolutely know that you could do a good job, but with the time constraints that it won't allow you to do a good job, then you're better off, you know, letting it being hand off to someone else. Because here's the thing, and Lao Tzu warned us about this. He said that human affairs are endless and inexhaustible, but the individual human ability is limited and has an exhaustion point. And so if you try to reign over unlimited endeavors by means of your limited capacity, then you will rapidly reach your exhaustion point, which will ultimately destroy you. And so you have to know when to step back and let others, you know, just do their own thing, as it were. Yeah, it does seem that corruption ultimately sinks into all things ultimately, and that the more power you're given, the more corrupt you become. And that's something to be wary of. And maybe me in demurring from that and saying, yeah, I don't really need to take the leadership at this time in my life. Maybe if I was a little older, I had a little more free time, if that the other thing, then I think I could do a better job. And I think that's true with a lot of things. I don't think that anybody should really get into politics until they're in their late 30s to early 40s. And honestly, if it was up to me, I would push the vote way back. I'd say not only do you have to be a natural born citizen, but you have to be someone that's achieved something positive in your life above and beyond the challenges that are in front of you. In addition to that, I'd probably require that you're a Freemason or a member of another elite society, and that you have to be like maybe 30 plus. Because I don't think that the human mind reaches mature levels until like late 20s. And so I would say in your late 20s, you should be able to be given the opportunity to use a good deal of your free time to study politics. And then when you hit like 38, 39, 40, then you could enter the world of voting and be allowed to vote within the republic. Yeah, so I would be much more strict. Yeah, I heard them talking about recently that they wanted to push the voting age down to 16 and let non-citizens vote too. And I was like, you're out of your fucking mind. If it were up to me, 25 would be the minimum age to vote. 25 would be the minimum age to get married for men as well. Yeah, and I would go even further, new with the new golden age. I would make it probably mid 30s. 35 would be the minimum age to vote in the United States if I had my way about it. And then not only would it be the minimum age to vote, it would be required. And you would be required to show that you could pass tests on political science, that you had studied the local issues in your neighborhood, and you'd be given routine examinations to make sure that you were keeping up with policy and that we were reviewing policy on an ongoing basis and doing away with bad, corrupt policy and instituting new, universally applicable, better policies for each region, each county, each state, and the United States as a whole. It would be requisite. It wouldn't be optional. Jury duty, just like jury duty. I don't think military service should be requisite, but I do think that public service should be requisite. Are they worthy? Yeah, you got to test them. You got to make sure that they are worthy. And there would be psychological evaluations and other forms of testing. And then there would be term limits too, like on the higher levels. And definitely age limits, I don't know so much about age limits, but like based on your level of health and energy, you can't fill a position where you're getting, $600,000 to $1 million a year for a younger person who's maybe in their late 30s or early 40s who could be in that position with an equal level of clarity, and they could defer to you, right? You could still maintain the position, but it would be the younger people who would get the larger pays and salary and that type of thing. And so the whole system needs overhaul, obviously. And it needs greater balance. And maybe the ultimate last vote would be cast by the person with the greatest level of wisdom and the greatest track record and seniority as far as age, right? But those positions would be filled with younger, newer energy. That would be in cultivation and as they say, grooming towards greatness, but political grooming. Hey, we've got another visitor in the ideas room, a Deck Gamer. Welcome, Deck Gamer. Good to see you. He gives a little shout out to Frankie. A little clapping there in the background. Good man. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Of course, I could have been Pharaoh at the age of 8. Yeah, there's always that, right? Kind of like the leader of North Korea. Hereditary succession is something that was done away with a long time ago, and I think that countries that did away with their monarchies and their feudal systems and attempted at least to implement new republics, I think that they're making a better choice. And again, if the foundation holds true, then the U.S. Constitution seems to be one of the greatest documents of governance that's ever been constructed, but people are just not living by it. And our institutions filled with criminals in government are definitely not operating under the constraints of the Constitution. They're well beyond it. just about everything they do is extra constitutional, especially when you say that private companies can violate our Bill of Rights. That's when you really fucking shit in your own nest. Okay, so the next, that was the third big idea, I believe, that was brought forward. There was a fourth and a fifth. Let me see here. What was the next big idea? I had them all written down in my last chat, and I wanted to talk about them one by one, but that last chat kind of went sideways a little bit, and so I had to take a break from it, make some lunch for my kids, and then eat a little lunch myself too. So here I am back at it once again. We are at the bottom of the hour, so I'm going to do the channel blurbs. Grand Wizard of the Esoteric Order of Dagon, self-appointed of the Eastern Star Division, representing the Grand Orient. Your friend and well-wisher, Frank Monday, host for the hour, encouraging you to hit the like button for YouTube's Algabots. Keep them barking like Pavlov's dog. And if it's not too much trouble, Wayfarer, please wander over to buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday and check out what I've got over there. Put a little something in the tip jar while you're at it, if that floats your boat, because it certainly puts the lead in my pencil. All right, it makes me bark like Pavlov's dog. The adoration of Abraxas, if you know it, say it internally, right? Holy art thou, Lord of the universe. When you arise in the morning, you can use Grimfaced's 5 stoic affirmations. Today, I choose to be positive. All right, that's what his was very simple. Today, upon waking, upon opening your eyes and arising from Dreamland, your return from the world beyond, say this simple aphorism: I choose to be positive, right? Or mine is a little more complex. I say today I choose to express the highest divine positivity, the highest divine positive productivity in my life, right? With all those I encounter. As Marcus Aurelius warned us, today you will meet with petty people, betraying people, people who will stab you in the back. And though you know this is going to happen, be stalwart against your enemy. And take a deep breath, right? And hold it for 3, 2, 1, and exhale. Relax. Command yourself to relax. Once the mud settles a little bit, look around and be grateful for all that you have. I am grateful for all of you being here to join me on this transmission today, and for all of the wonderful things in my life. Next up, the third affirmation, Grim-Faced Stoic. It's a channel here on YouTube. You can check it out. He puts out like a daily video, man. The guy's a fucking workhorse. Jesus. So definitely check him out. I forget exactly what the name of the channel is called, but it's Grim-Faced something. Grim-Faced Motivation, I believe. I am capable of achieving great things. And for me personally, again, this is the great work. And what is the great work? It's before all things creation of man by himself. That is to say, the full and entire conquest of his faculties and his future. It is especially the perfect emancipation of your will, right? And I shifted a little from third person to expository and so on. So pretty straightforward there, right? The great work. I pray unto the Lord each day and every day and multiple times per day. Teach me those things which I must know for the completion of the great work and the glory of thine ineffable name, Adonai. Arise, come forth, enter into my dreamland, saith the prophet. Number 4 is I embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. This is a good one. This goes right in tow with the 100-day challenge that I've brought forward, right? 100 days of contiguous, consistent, concentrated effort and focus on magic and magic alone. And when I say that, I mean Solomonic magic, the magic that was brought forward by the great wizard king Solomon, son to David the king. And that's because I come from an Abrahamic and Jewish tradition. I am a German-Irish Jew, and that's why I'm broadcasting here on YouTube. like all of you guys are too. You and you and you and you and you. You're all little UEUs. Arise, come forth, enter thee into my new Dreamland. Indeed, yeah. Dreamland. Dreamland could be a catchy phrase for Trump's new administration, right? He could bring forward the prophet of Dreamland, old Frank Monday, Francis Lunas Aristeas. I would participate in his administration, but I don't have such megalomania or illusions of grandeur. I am but a humble janitor sweeping the fucking hallways of the celestial palace. And there you have it, the fifth one, the fifth affirmation. Sorry, the fifth affirmation from grim-faced motivation, a true stoic and a workhorse, that you should take small actions towards your overarching goals every day. I take action towards my goals every day. And that's what I'm doing right now, being here with you guys. I'm taking a little more action on a broader goal that I have, and I'll remind you of it if you don't know. It's I'd like to reach 1,000 subs at some point, because I'd like to get the channel monetized at some point in the future, and that would greater enable me to receive, I don't know, some of that AdSense revenue, even if it's just a couple of dollars a month that comes in from the boob tube. It would contribute to bigger and better things, right? It would contribute, like in the past, some of you contributed to my Buy Me a Coffee channel, and as a result, I was able to buy this wonderful new microphone I have. In fact, I bought a couple of microphones until I found one that worked. It enabled me to buy a better webcam and set up a studio, which I don't have now because my dorm is under renovation, but I should have it back going into next semester. I should be able to set my studio up again. And then I'll be broadcasting in the evenings after school, and on the weekend, of course, and other things as well. You know, they're all kinds of small accoutrements. And if I get a substantial solid base, then I'll be able to actually pay for StreamYard, which I'm using. You can see by up in the upper right-hand corner of the window, powered by StreamYard. When you're on the free one, you have a lot of limitations there. And with those limitations, you know, you can't reach as far or do as much. But that's okay. Indeed, I agree with you, man. That's why I lead my family from the fucking bottom. I lead it from doing the laundry, mopping the floors, cutting the yard, doing the major labor at work. I do all of these things. I take care of a lot of the inward and outward expressions of drudgery that's involved with the family. You know, not only working a full-time job, but sometimes coming home and cooking dinner as well. My wife does her share too. She does a different kind of soft, she does just as much work, but in her own way, right? It's a type of softer leadership. She cooks most of the meals, and she does most of the grocery organization and purchasing and stocking of the things that we need at home. You know, like I wouldn't even have this fucking bag of coffee sitting in front of me right now if it wasn't for my wife going out and doing the shopping while I'm at the office earning the salary. So, you know, we're two sides of the same coin, as it were, and it's required in order to raise children. It's absolutely essential, and most people can't even do it on one income anymore. You know, in the States, they've put so many people at such a disadvantage that one income isn't enough to power the entire family. Lucky for me, it is. You know, I'm able, and I like when I get back to those affirmations, right? I am grateful for all that I have, and I'm humbled by it. And so that would return me back to the big question: why do any of it anyway, right? Why get up here and live stream and talk to people and interact with the community? It's because of what the old prophet of the Aeon said: no new horror can be more terrible than the daily torture of the commonplace. And maybe with me here as one voice and others who do this type of activity, that we can break folks out of trance and break them out of that daily torture of the commonplace. If you can, yeah, Nunu, I agree with you. If you can help support each other, you know, and whatever that may be, Nobody's here to lord it over you and tell you what that has to be. It could be the solitary path of the individual practitioner. That suits some people. If you're raising a family, it's definitely more challenging. Uh, it could be that alternative path that it seemed like a lot of people reached out for in the recent past. You know, maybe they had an imbalance of masculine or feminine energy and they needed an alternative form of expression. That's fine too. We're just saying that that's not the mandate. You know, you don't have to do that and you don't have to force it down everyone's throats. But it can be tolerated and accepted for those who think that it's the right way for them to go, you know, and it should never be, you shouldn't throw shade on those folks. But at the same time, you don't necessarily let them on the central stage and say, hey, here's the way forward for everyone, because that's not, absolutely not going to work. And we have seen that, and it's been proven over and over and over again. Yeah, so I deviated a little bit there, but that's okay. We'll get back to center. When we see the Taiji Tu, the Chinese call it the Taiji Tu, Westerners know it as the yin yang symbol. We see that it can be analogous to the left brain, right brain type of thinking, right? Like you have the engineer on one side and the gardener on the other. So in the West, we definitely do like to take a mechanized approach, right? We created all of these wonderful things in technology, planes, trains, and automobiles, and brought forth computerized technology. And this is the engineer side of things. In the East, in the Eastern Star over here, in Twilight Zone, Old Peking, they brought forth a different form of spiritual cultivation. They have this idea of a gardener, that the human body is like a wild garden, you know, that needs to be tamed and cultivated, that your various internal organs and your mind and all of these things are growing in a garden, and that you should be a diligent gardener of your earthly temple, as it were. And so I think in the idea of bringing forth the best of both worlds, we can aspire to understand the precepts of science, physics, and engineering and architecture. And at the same time, we have to have a good solid root foundation in the natural world and understand natural law as a gardener, not only of ourselves, but of our minds and of our communities and our families and all of that as well. Yeah, so let's see here. I was going to get into a little bit more of the teaching, but we're at the end of the hour here, guys, and I think I'm going to retire for the rest of the day and get involved in some other tasks. Nunu, thanks once again for joining me here on the old Frank Monday channel. Deck Gamer, thank you for stopping by. I'm going to finish off today's transmission with the invocation of total integration that was brought forward by Master Nihua Qing, Grand Master of the Universal Society of the Integral Way. I learned this back I was either in junior high or high school, and I think it's a really great one. I memorized it, and I always like to say it from memory. The way he originally taught it has changed. In his new book, you can find this invocation in the workbook for the spiritual development of all people. So the title of that book is The Workbook for the Spiritual Development of All People. It's called The Invocation of Total Integration. It goes a little something like this. Oh, and what I meant to say is that the new editions, there's been new editions since the Grand Master has passed beyond the veil and his children have taken over his company. They've tried to update the wording a little bit, and it's a little more woke now than it used to be. But it used to be like hardcore old school brass tacks Taoism, and that's how I memorized it. So I'll share it with you now. Heaven and earth are the spontaneous manifestations of the subtle, wondrous, universal law. As the original oneness expresses itself, gross and subtle energies become distinctly divided. Our bodily caves are brightly illuminated by the mysterious light from the three Dantian, bridge points leading to immortality. The powerful spirits of the 8 directions can join our being with the true origin of life. By the absolute order of the divine Ling Bao in the highest 9th heaven, send the positive energies of Qianluo, Dana, Dengkan, and Taishuan to destroy our spiritual obstacles and debilitate any evil influence. This order is given by the highest sovereignty. It is a jade oracle from the subtle origin. Invoke with strong sincerity to drive away the demons and evils and lengthen your healthy years. The attained spirits respond. The evil demon king Mo Wang is chained to stand as our guard and servant. The powerful atmosphere has been generated, dispersing all negativity. The Qi of Tao is everlasting. So it is commanded and confirmed. So mote it be. So a couple of things about that invocation, and thank you for participating in it. If you know it, say the words with me, right? You can find it written out in detail on buymeacoffee.com. In it, there's a couple of Chinese names. Number one is the divine Ling Bao in the highest 9th heaven. Send the positive energies of Qianluo, Dana, Dengkan, and Taishuan to destroy my spiritual obstacles and debilitate any evil influence. So Ling Bao means spirit treasure. So the highest divine Ling Bao in the high, or the positive energy, the Ling Bao in the highest 9th heaven. This represents like what the ancient Taoists believe is the highest form of the God force, or the big spirit treasure that sits in the highest heaven above us, right? So they divide their heaven into 9 levels, and that 9th level, that's where God's throne is. As that descends down to us through the powers and principalities and angelic forces, you ask that Ling Bao send the positive energies of Qianluo, Dana, Dengkan, and Taishuan. So those directly correspond with Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, and Uriel, right? So you're basically just doing the pentagram ritual of establishing before me Raphael, behind me Gabriel, at my right hand Michael, at my left hand Uriel, right? So they're Qianluo, Dana, Dengkan, and Taishuan. So same idea, the 4 great archangels to surround you and protect you. Then the next one we hear is Mo Wang. Right, we've got the Mu or Mu. It means death or the cemetery, and then Wang means king. So we say Mo Wang, the evil demon king, is chained to stand as my guard and servant. So if you've seen the 13th, not 13th, but the 15th plate in the major arcana of the tarot, you see a devil standing on a cube of Saturn with a bestial man and woman below him, right? So this is the imagery, but you take the devil and he's in chains at the bottom of the cube of Saturn, and the glorified angelic man and woman, husband and wife, Adam and Eve, stand atop the great double cube of Saturn. So you should distinguish here that that's what's called in magic an intentional blind, or they set up something that's on its surface at a superficial level, it's wrong, so that people who don't have initiation, when they look at it, they're confused. They're like, oh my God, the evil beast is above man and woman. And no, it's exactly the direct opposite, that many of the plates in the major arcana of the tarot are set up with intentional blinds so that people who have not been initiated to the inner chamber do not understand what they're looking at. And the only way to get past those blinds is just to keep studying, receive initiation, keep praying, and keep doing good magic. So I thought I would explain that a little bit. I believe that's all of the Chinese in that one. And so just to set your mind at ease that we're not saying some strange and arbitrary invocation, that it's the same adoration of Abraxas that I say every day. Holy art thou, Lord of the universe, right? Same. New. Good to see you again, beloved Wayfarer. Keep doing good magic, and I will see all of you in the abodes of the future at Astra Prospera. Until next time, your host for the hour, Frank Monday, wishing you fare thee well, Wayfarer. Fare thee well. And bye for now.